I have always loved the forest. The forest is peace and calm. And even after the incident I want to tell you about, I didn't stop going there. My best friend is an avid hunter. A few times, I went hunting with him. He would give me his old shotgun, but I never shot it. I never had the chance. And I didn't really want to shoot with someone else's weapon. Finally, I bought my own, a good double-barrel hunting rifle for large game. It lay in the safe for a long time, waiting for its day. And then one autumn weekend, it finally came. I made up my mind to go to the forest, but my friend was abroad, but nothing could stop me. If I decided something, I would definitely do it. The weather was great. I loaded my off-road vehicle with supplies and double-checked everything several times so I wouldn't forget anything. I arrived at my hunting grounds near nightfall, booked a room at a roadside motel, prepared my gear, and had dinner. I flipped through the maps of the area, studied a couple of trails I needed to follow, and then fell asleep with the papers in my hands. In the morning, after a hearty breakfast, I drove to the hunting area, and within 20 minutes I was already on the trail. I parked my car by the roadside. From here, I would go on foot. I took my backpack filled with provisions, navigation, first aid supplies, my double-barrel shotgun, phone, and set off into the forest. I wandered for a couple of hours with the compass in my hand before I finally put it in my pocket and took out a special navigator to make orienting on the land easier. I walked and enjoyed the journey. There were times when I had to track my prey. The autumn forest captivated me with its silence, tranquility, and an unusual feeling of cleanliness and vivid colors. The warm sunbeams pierced through the treetops, creating almost magical lighting. I walked along the hunting trails, but after several hours, I had no results. Then I decided to leave the beaten path and ventured deeper into the forest. Turning off the navigator, I started listening carefully to the wind and the rustling of branches. About half an hour later, I heard what I wanted: the roar of an animal. It was a wild boar. I had heard that kind of roar before when hunting with my friend for the second time. Back then, we didn't track it, but I decided to follow it. I knew that a wild boar is a dangerous animal, and going after it alone, especially for the first time, wasn't a good idea. But the animal had to be tracked first, which is much more difficult than simply hearing it. For me, it was a good experience, and I headed towards the adventure. The compass pointed northwest, and I confidently moved in the right direction. The boar was grunting, and I noticed traces, not just hooves, but also blood. The animal was wounded and wouldn't go far, I thought. The tracking became easier. I moved along the trail and could almost see how it walked, slowly losing strength. However, the animal led me around in circles for a long time. I lost track of time, getting deeply involved in tracking the poor animal. I don't know how long this lasted, but finally I caught up with it. And there it was. Peering out from the bushes, I saw, on a small clearing surrounded by trees and bushes, the wounded animal standing there. It was a boar, as I had guessed, but a very young one, a mere piglet. Its back leg was broken, and blood was oozing out. The animal had managed to escape danger, but with such a wound, it wouldn't survive. The little boar was exhausted and collapsed on the ground, completely drained. I raised my gun, aimed, and just then, I heard an enraged roar from the bushes to my left. My reaction wasn't fast enough. I felt the pain long before I saw the adult boar. This full-grown boar, weighing several hundred pounds, tossed me a couple of meters into the air, injuring my thigh, breaking my leg below the knee and a couple of ribs before I even realized what had happened. They had warned me not to go after a boar alone. I don't know why the animal left me alive when it easily could have finished me off. Perhaps it was just as scared as I was. I fumbled for my phone in my pants pocket and was horrified to find that the enraged animal had crushed it with my leg, breaking it. My double-barrel shotgun was nowhere to be found, but I didn't care about it. I was losing blood. Somehow I managed to bandage my leg, and the bleeding slowly stopped. I couldn't get up and crawled away from the spot, not thinking about the fact that I didn't know the way back. I crawled until my strength ran out. I passed out very quickly and woke up only at night from the cold, shivering so much that I couldn't relax my muscles. I had to crawl to warm myself up with some movement. but then I noticed that it wasn't really cold at all. I even tried shouting, straining my voice, but in response, there was only a deathly silence. I was lucky that the sky was clear and the moon rose. The treetops turned silver. When I made it back to the same clearing where I had seen the young boar a few hours ago, I tried to get the navigator out. Of course, it was broken, and the compass was lost, probably fallen from my pocket. I tried to eat, but swallowing was very painful. I lay there, helpless, cursing myself, the boar, the shotgun I lost, the hunt, the compass, the forest, and my friend. All I could think about at that moment was waiting until morning. I didn't see any other way. I was only afraid that the wild boar might return and finish what it had started. My leg had already gone numb. I couldn't take a deep breath. Pain pierced my body with every movement. I lay in silence when suddenly I heard a rustle. I swear if it had been one more unexpected rustle, I would have died from fright right then. The sound of crunching underbrush came from heavy steps. Mentally, I had already said goodbye to life, expecting to see a giant animal. But instead, I saw a human silhouette. He walked past me, seemingly not noticing my hoarse cries for help. I wouldn't have caught up with him anyway, but I crawled in the direction he had gone until I ran out of strength. He gave me hope, though. I didn't even know if he was real, but I kept moving forward confidently. Soon, I stumbled out of the forest strip to a small slope that led into a spacious field. I froze, seeing the scene in front of me. Picture this. The full moon casts a cold light over the landscape. The moving silhouettes throw long, slanted shadows. There were more than 100 of them, standing across the field. The outlines of their figures were easily recognizable as human. They were standing close to each other, gently swaying with their heads lowered, in complete silence. This sight left me speechless. But true fear took over when I heard footsteps behind me. I couldn't turn quickly enough and I wouldn't have been able to fight back. But I didn't have to. "Evan, where are you crawling to?" came a warm male voice. "There's only death waiting for you. You need to go back." "Wait, who are you?" was all I managed to say, losing my speech from fear. The man, looking around 70, appeared weathered and worn, with a thick beard that hadn't been shaved in many years. A rifle was slung across his back. "Uncle Misha," he said. "Call me that. Everyone knows me by that name. I'm Igor. I'm local. Lucky I found you in time. Otherwise you would have been lost." "Yeah, but you'll have to bear some pain for a bit," he added, squatting down beside me. "Don't scream, please. They'll hear you. They'll drag you to themselves and they'll be very angry." I wanted to ask who they were, but Uncle Misha turned me on my side and lifted me off the ground. Pain struck my head. I stopped, understanding anything, and then I completely lost consciousness. When I woke up, I realized I was lying on some sort of cart. The old man was carrying me somewhere. Only then did I notice how broad and powerful the gamekeeper's back was and that my shotgun was strapped to his back. "Where are we going?" I asked, struggling to move my jaw. "To the road. The rescue team might be able to get to you. You're in bad shape. I found your rifle. Probably yours. There's blood everywhere. Good rifle. It's a shame you didn't get to use it. That boar, he's no joke. Why did you go after him? You know hunting isn't allowed here." "How's that?" I asked. "I'm in a hunting zone." "Yeah, sure, you're way far out to the north. You've wandered off the path," he replied. "Where are you from, Uncle Misha?" "I live around here. The place I found you. Remember? Just a couple of miles south and to the edge of the forest. Then you'll see my hut. I live in isolation. Alone." I tried to memorize this information. "Thank you, Uncle Misha. If it weren't for you—" "Don't mention it. Just rest," he said. And I fell silent, looking at the night sky. It had gotten a little lighter. I thought about surviving until morning, closed my eyes, and fell asleep. I woke up in a hospital, with tubes all over me, completely bandaged up and in a cast. Almost until winter, my friends knew I was going hunting, and they quickly realized something was wrong when I didn't check in by nightfall. The next morning, they set out to search for me and easily found my car, but not me. I was found by local residents a couple of days later, 150 kilometers away from the car, lying unconscious by the side of the road in a very bad state. I had a backpack with whatever I managed to save, and the locals brought me to the hospital. How I made it to the road I still don't understand, nor do I understand much else. I was only fully recovered by winter. All this time I couldn't stop thinking that I had to thank my savior. Without him, I would have definitely perished in the forest and no one would have found me. I remembered the forest edge, the 3 cedars, the field with hundreds of eerie, motionless figures. I remembered everything, but I didn't tell anyone. I only talked about the boar that had attacked me. As for everything else, I could barely believe it myself. The thought came to me unexpectedly, and 4.5 hours later, I was in the same motel ready to go back. Once again, I was alone, and this time, no one knew where I was heading. It was winter, and I hoped I wouldn't run into any more wild boars. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have gone alone, just like last time. But when I decide something, nothing can stop me, remember? I took my old double-barrel shotgun with me, but I didn't intend to hunt. I wanted to thank the old man. Thanks to modern technology and the navigator, I quickly found the spot where I met the boar and its young. From there, I headed to that eerie field, but it looked different this time. It wasn't illuminated by the moonlight, and there were no people. What I saw that day was a snow-covered abandoned cemetery. There were no traces around, so no one had been there for a long time. It seemed that instead of human figures, I had seen gravestones. It couldn't have been. I couldn't have mistaken it. Or could I? A distant feeling of unease returned, the same feeling I had that night. I climbed the hilltop, and I realized it was time to leave. I took the southern path, as Uncle Misha had told me, and after 40 minutes of walking through the snowdrifts, I found the place with the 3 cedars. I searched the whole forest edge, but there was no sign of the hut. Maybe I misunderstood something or missed it, but there was no hut at the edge of the forest. I almost gave up when my eye caught an odd stone sticking out beneath one of the cedars. Upon closer inspection, I saw an inscription on it. Mikhail Prokofyevich Griety, 1923 to 1991, years of life. Uncle Misha, you will always be in our memory, forever with us through the wild forest. The inscription made it clear that Uncle Misha had been dead for 24 years. How could this be? I sat by his grave for a long time, almost until sunset. Then I realized I needed to head back home before it got dark. I fixed the gravestone, broke off a piece of bread, and placed a bottle of vodka next to it. Thank you, Uncle Misha. Now every autumn I visit that forest, passing by the abandoned cemetery, near the 3 lonely cedars, but I haven't met the mysterious old man or anything else from that night.